and my heart betrays me. These lies are stealing from me. So this time I'm standing on everything. You say I am yours and you are for me. Sweet redemption is my story. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love is more than enough for me. Your love is faithful. Your love is powerful. Your love is more than enough for me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Identity Podcast. This is our first episode. On behalf of everybody, I think we're all pretty excited to kick this thing off. Just to talk a little bit about the podcast, a lot of what we want to do is talk about art and music and culture and church. That's kind of where our heart is at. And throughout this season, this is season 1, we'll have guests and friends that will come on. But for today's episode, we'll talk about a very specific topic. So we're very excited for our first episode. Just real quick, I just want to say my name is Aaron. So glad to be here with you. And everybody's going to kind of say their name, maybe something stupid. I don't know.
You want us to like say what we also do for a living, or you just want to?
Let's do favorite kind of ice cream.
Favorite kind of ice cream deal.
That's a good one.
My name is Jeremy, and my favorite kind of ice cream is cookies and cream.
Oh, okay.
My name is Tim. I'm going to go with chocolate chip cookie dough.
Good choice. Good choice.
I'm Josiah, and I will take mint chocolate chip over everything.
Ooh.
And since I'm really boring, I only eat vanilla. But if I'm feeling crazy, I'll have French vanilla. So you can take that one to the bank.
High roller over there.
Just so you know, the song that you guys heard is a song of ours. We're in a group together called Graveyards to Gardens, G to G for short. So we'll have some links in the description for all of our music and stuff like that. So we hope you enjoy that as well. How's everybody doing this week? Doing all right?
Thrilled to be here.
Say it more excited.
It's Monday. I mean, so far so good. It's been
Yeah.
good. Yeah, it's been good. Tim and I were at a wedding this past weekend.
Yeah.
It was dope.
Josiah, you're getting close to midterms, right?
Yeah, I took my first midterm this morning. I am no longer in an 8 a.m. class. That class is wrapped up. There you go. Yeah, amen to that. That's a
Don't break the microphone, Aaron. Sorry.
that is a blessing to not have wellness at 8 a.m. anymore.
That seems like such an oxymoron, wellness at 8
Yeah,
a.m.
it is never well.
Yeah.
Or Ness.
Or nice.
Sweet. So if you're watching, we just ask you to please like, subscribe, and if you subscribe, please hit the bell so you can get the notifications anytime we post anything. We also have other content too. We'll be doing some covers and some other things, which will be really cool. And please share it. If you like what you're seeing, share it with your friends, share it with your family. We would love that. And we'll also have all of our social media in the description also. Oh, so for today, our topic is going to be about success. We thought this would be cool to kind of kick off the podcast. Josiah and I were at a party. What was that, Saturday night?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. We were with some good friends and had like just an awesome time. And we were coming on the way back and we just kind of stumbled onto this topic about success and what does that look like. And that's something that we kind of talk about often with our career as a group, but also we have separate careers as well. We do a lot of different things. I know Jeremy's a photographer, videographer. Tim works at a school as a studio manager. Josiah is going to be on the road as a monitors engineer, and I know how to play the guitar in the key of G. Very well, though.
In the key of G to G. All right, maybe next time.
All right. No.
Anyway, so we wanted to kind of talk about this and explore this topic because this is something that we're always thinking about in our personal careers, but also in our careers as a group. We also have M&M's on the show.
No,
not sponsored.
This is not a product place. They're N and N's.
N and N's.
Really good.
Or any letter of the alphabet you want to use. So what I just want to ask you guys is like, how do you guys see success? How do you define that for yourselves? Whether it's with what we're doing or in your personal lives, doesn't even necessarily have to be music related. It could be like relationally as well.
Yeah, I think for myself, I've had that question asked me a lot of times, and I don't always know how to answer it, and I
Sure.
still don't know how to answer it, I think. I think it's fair to say that whatever success is, we haven't all attained it yet. We're still pretty young. I feel like success is, it can be a lot of things, but it's typically something that, you achieve over a long period of time.
Right.
Obviously, there's milestones you hit along the way. I know for myself, I'm married, I have 2 kids. I can semi-provide for them, and so that's pretty close to what success looks like for me. And so I'm pretty happy about that. But at the same time, I know there is more to that word that I'm still figuring out. And yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll figure out more as I hear from you guys as well.
For sure. Yeah, for me, I think one way I define success, because I think it's kind of layered on how we can look at that, but at least for where I'm at in my life, the way I'm starting to define success is just happiness. Like, I'm at this space where I just don't want to waste time doing anything that's not really going to make me feel happy or fulfilled. And I feel better for it, yeah, that's kind of how I've been sitting in that the last probably couple of years or so. It's like really trying to pursue happiness and trying to take away the things that aren't helpful.
So wait, what is happiness to you then?
Part of that happiness is the people I'm with, people I do life with. Thank you, guys.
Aww.
Yeah. Whether that be the things that I do in terms of career, like doing things I just get a lot of joy out of doing. Like this past weekend, I started producing a song for a friend, and I didn't realize how much I love doing it and how happy that made me. It's always something I wanted to do, but this was like the first opportunity I really got to dip my feet into doing that. So I want to do more of that because it's been bringing me more happiness and just being able to see the happiness that brings other people as well. So it's been really cool to kind of dive into that sort of a thing and kind of experiment with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jay?
I don't know. As I'm thinking about this, it's kind of weird because I feel like success, at least for me anyway, because of kind of getting into like a little bit of like my background and like
Yeah, go for
where
it.
I am as a 2 on the Enneagram, like a helper. Like thinking about success is so relationship based for me. I want to do good by other people. I want to do like a good job for other people. So I feel like success, at least the definition for me, is always focused on people, but they're like that relational aspect of like working, co-creating with other people for other people. And I think that manifests itself, at least in my life, in a lot of different ways, because I've never been able to just be like, I've succeeded and be able to just concretely say that, because I never feel like I'm done working on something yet. So I feel like there's this mixture of like success is like knowing you've done a good job for someone, for a project or something like that, or for someone, but there's always this level of like you can continue to succeed. I don't think you necessarily hit like a ceiling or like a final goal.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think it's like a process that you're constantly going through.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't know if that answers that, but that's kind of my like
Sure.
perspective on it, at least.
Yeah.
For me, so I grew up son of a pastor, and a
PKs.
lot of rocking out here. A lot of our lead pastor's sermons, he would start out with a word or phrase, and then would like define it in like the original language and stuff like that. So I like for speeches, for papers, like I will often go to like a definition or the root of a word or phrase. So success, technically speaking, is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. And so I'm about to graduate college, and that was one of my aims or purposes. I set out to do a 4-year degree, and I'm about to see that through. And then one of my aims or purposes after that was to be able to not live with my parents and provide for myself and kind of forge my own path.
So a functioning adult.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that to me
Yeah.
is a pretty big level of success, and that looks very different for a lot of people. And there's no shame for people that do go back and live with their parents. I think that is financially a very responsible
Yeah, if
way
my-
to start your life.
If my parents live close enough,
Yeah, sure, right.
Yeah.
And so for me, it just wasn't really an option if I wanted to
Sure.
succeed in my future career path. And,
Yeah.
and so that was a big thing for me was to have a job and to find a place to live, whether that was around the university I graduated from or elsewhere. And so this last summer when I was asked to join a touring group full time, like that felt like a lot of success to me, because I was like, there's some financial security there. There is just a feel good, like I did it kind of feeling. But it's also kind of empty because I'm never done. Like, now I'm on the road with them, but like, how can I do that better? And where is this going to take me from there?
Yeah.
So success is moving and is fleeting. But I would say it doesn't have to be a really big thing. Like success to me is paying my bills.
Yeah.
And that's
On
important.
time.
Yeah, on time.
On
Yeah.
time
Yep.
too at
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And like I think a lot of people get so worked up in this idea of they graduated from college with a degree in whatever and they're not able to find a job in that career field. And so they get a job doing something else. But like if that pays the bills, like to me that's success. Just kind of in a different frame of context. So I think that's kind of important to keep in mind and to kind of have it on the back burner as you're kind of defining success for yourself is what are you doing right now that's successful?
One quick thing I'm just interested in getting, not all of you have to answer this, but
Sure.
so oftentimes I think in our society and culture, success is somehow defined by money. And so what, if at all, does that play into your definition of success?
I don't know. Sometimes as a musician, it's not really set up for that.
Yeah.
And so,
So is that something you think about when you think about success, or
not for me personally. I don't know. I've kind of always, I don't know, like, I mean, obviously money is great, especially if you want to be able to provide. But also to, like things like family vacations and having the resources to do that. But just like living the way I've been living the past few years, and it's like money isn't everything. I've been in positions where I was able to make more money than I'd ever had at one point, and I was actually very unhappy. And I think, being in that position just kind of reinstilled, it's like, if it's not making me happy, so I don't want to waste my time. And also, I don't want to waste other people's time. If I'm not like invested and like 100% committed into what I'm doing and I'm not happy, I think that translates into how I relate to people. And in a lot of ways, that can hinder them from, I don't know, even reaching levels and goals for themselves and success as well. Yeah.
For me, like it was relatively ingrained in that because my goal was to be able to provide for myself financially too.
Right. Yeah.
And there's definitely different levels of success, that you could say is, provide for yourself, be able to live, have a little higher standard of living. Like the ladder kind of goes up from there. But like I didn't grow up super rich. My parents have helped me a lot through college, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But like I don't need a lot.
So wealth isn't necessarily a pinnacle of success. Anyway.
I think it can be a false pinnacle of success that people use as a crutch to feel better about themselves.
I think there's a big difference between that being a high point or a goal versus if we're like sustainability is what we're after.
Yep.
We're not about necessarily going after like
Right.
I need tons of money. Like no.
Yeah, we're not trying to say we want to be poor.
Yeah, it's like I want to be able to be sustainable.
Right.
By whatever definition that may mean, or whatever
Yes.
amount I'm able to provide for my family.
Yeah.
Right.
Or stuff like
And
that.
Tim, that looks very different for you than any of us because we're all young single guys.
Yep.
with
No responsibilities.
no one to feed other than ourselves. But I mean, you have a family, and how do you kind of balance like that financial success, and where do you kind of draw some of those lines?
Yeah, well, I mean, I like things and stuff too, as much as the next person, and so I think that's why initially my definition I said that, you know, it was about, you know, being able to provide for my family and my kids, and you know, it's not easy, but you know, we get by and we do it, and so I'm a pretty simple-minded person, and so when I see that, okay, like that measurable goal, like, you know, I've achieved that to some degree. Obviously, there's more I'd like to do. There's more things I'd like to provide, and more experiences I'd like to create for my family.
Absolutely.
And you know, have a house someday and all that fun stuff. But I think I could easily get lost in that world too.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I have to simplify it, and you know, people are getting fed, the lights are on, all that kind of stuff. And
And
know,
you still
that's
got your Netflix subscription.
Right, exactly. Like, there's still plenty of luxuries like we get to
Apple
enjoy.
Music.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Plug Apple Music. Sorry, Spotify listeners. Everything.
You're not forgiven.
So yeah. It's definitely something. Yeah, I can't get carried away with. 'Cause I go down the wrong path quickly.
Yeah, just hearing you kind of talking about your family and like you know, having like a defined kind of view of what success looks like. I think for me, one of the first visions of success was my parents. You know, just like you're saying, you didn't grow up with a lot. I didn't either, but we always had what we needed, always. And I think about like some of the sacrifices my parents made. Like they put us, I have two siblings, put us all through private school from kindergarten all the way through senior year, and because they just had a vision of what they thought our lives should be like. But it was also like their commitment to our family that I really started to understand success on a different level too. And I don't know, I take a lot of pride in that, and being able to see my just the way my mom and dad led, and just even like lessons they taught and instilled in us, and how I use that literally every day. It's funny because, you know, you hear sometimes you hear people talk about like when you're a kid you really didn't care what your parents have to say, and then you become an adult like, oh my God, they were right about everything. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true.
I will say though, I guess, and maybe you guys have experienced this too, but definitely from a position of like having a family, I always thought growing up, I didn't grow up rich, but you know, we were doing fine, and I always thought that would be like my standard of living. And I think a lot of people in our generation have dealt with this, where like, you know, you assume you'll be at the same standard of living as your parents, and I'm definitely not right now.
Sure.
But you have to remember too that, you know, I was basing that off of, you know, they were 10, 15, 20 years further in life than I am right now.
Right.
But still, growing up, you always think like, oh, this will always be how it is, or better.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, oh, it's not quite.
It's not as
Right.
it's not as shiny as I thought it
Not
would be.
close.
Oh,
Yeah.
The economy is also a very different place than it was.
Right,
That's
when,
also
for sure.
you know, when our parents were just getting to start
Yeah.
out, which it could be a whole nother podcast.
I was gonna say, I'd take the TV I have now versus whatever mom and dad was using. But yeah, I think for me that was kind of like my first example of seeing what success looked like, and that was huge motivation. You know, just watching my family, and like over the years, motivation for me to even finish school, and just like seeing. Not taking for granted like what my parents did and anything else, but like, you know, as kids we grew up with heroes and people that we've looked up to. I just mentioned my parents. Like, who was some like figures for you, whether it was at home or like, I don't know, on the TV, on what success kind of modeled what you might have pulled from a little bit for success for you personally? I know for me, another person I look at for success, I'm a huge basketball fan. I was also born a Lakers fan thanks to my dad. He watched like Magic, Kareem, and all that stuff. So there's that lineage of like Lakers fans. So
Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. That's what I was going to mention. No, Kobe Bryant's probably my favorite athlete ever, just because of his work ethic and like his drive to just be like the best, and just how he reaped the fruit of his hard work over the years. And even when it wasn't difficult, and in a lot of cases he was actually a very hated basketball player, but he stuck with routine and discipline and stuff, and he reaped those benefits. So for me, Kobe is a big person in terms of like how I approach songwriting and stuff like that, and hopefully that that pays dividends off in the long run, and like this like obsessive passion to like grow and develop and to learn. So that's one for me, even outside of my parents.
I have two.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'd say well, I mean three technically. I'd go parents. My mom and my dad are both not like the most, like, we didn't have like a lot of money growing up or anything else like that, but I mean like provided a really good income, really good work ethic. Like I would also say my grandparents. More so, not to say that like my grandma wasn't like a hero to me in the way that she like succeeded in life, like only having a high school education but managing to like, for the time when she grew up, like born in 29, all throughout that time up until I think she like retired in the 90s or something like that.
Wow.
But like lived a long life and was like successful for what she did. I think my grandpa more so though, because like managed to like grew up like the oldest of I think 5 brothers in a shack like in the middle of Wisconsin, and then just somehow manages to like get a pretty good job with AT&T. And I don't know, just like beating the odds in that way of like being like, no, he's grew up poor but managed to like really hustle super duper hard. Right. So like on a family end, I guess that I would say those are some heroes, but like I guess in a more millennial-ish way, there's a YouTuber, vlogger, and an Instagram photographer named Ben Brown that I follow from London, but I think he lives in South Africa now.
Shout outs to Ben Brown if you're watching.
Obsessively following for the past couple of years, and just like started out with just like a really small channel and is now built to where he's doing like brand content with like Audi and BMW and like all these other companies, and this is just off of social media and just knowing really how to network really, really well and just going after what he wants. And working hard for it, though. That's the other thing, though. I think that's, for me anyway, because of doing photo and everything and video and stuff now, it's just like seeing someone that's putting the work in and is like working really hard to get there. It's just like, it's not like everyone's going to be able to make it, but I'm going to try my hardest.
Right. That's motivation for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a couple. Growing up, especially just in like terms of music, someone like John Foreman of Switchfoot was a huge inspiration in my life. And definitely someone like, oh man, like I want to be like that. I want when I grow up or whatever.
Yeah.
He's been here a long time. But I think also in the midst of something like that, though, is like, especially when I was younger, like it was so easy to get caught up in like, understanding though like who I am though, and I'm not trying to derail from talking about heroes, but like I definitely
good job, Tim.
I definitely got caught up in like, mixing up my identity and people like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a much healthier place now, but
cool.
Yeah.
Stories of recovery.
Right.
It's fine. I'll bring it up in counseling.
But yeah, I've definitely had heroes like that. It was just like, man, like this is everything I would want out of life. But also understanding too, like, wait, is it really though? Like, let them live their life. Let me, live my own life, and my own, what I had to bring to the table. Other people, like I really enjoyed listening to people like Bob Goff, who definitely someone that like I can say like, oh man, I couldn't be that. Like it's just the personality is so different.
He's so like good, but like so crazy at the same time.
Right. But just seeing someone who's so comfortable in their own skin and like so, seemingly so confident, you know, like in just his outlook on life and the way he approaches it, and the way he handles things, his perspective he brings is the big thing. People who bring perspective, to me, make me think like, oh, I've been doing that. You know, I've been living this way incorrectly, or you know, just stuff like that. Where like, you know, kind of light bulb moments. And so I really appreciate somebody like him, and he's definitely a successful person. So.
Yeah.
For me, especially like specifically financially, it was my grandparents on my mom's side. They never had like crazy good jobs, I guess. They kind of bounced around from working in public education, and then eventually they settled on selling insurance for years, and they owned their own kind of branch, I think, of State Farm. And they sold insurance for years. But they put away money and stored money and lived very frugally, very, very well. And that was cool for me to kind of grow up watching them as sort of like a benchmark almost, or like this, it's possible kind of thing, and like here's how
It's obtainable.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a fallacy. It's not crazy to think about trying to do this. And so they were definitely a big influence as far as like success. Like they provided for, you know, all the kids immediately, and have continued to provide. They still send money every Christmas, every time like
That's
we
cool.
go visit them. They basically would pay for our vacations out there. They live in New Mexico, so it's about a 24-hour drive from my parents' house.
Woof.
You know, it's rough, but we love doing it. We love going out to visit them, and they live in the mountains of New Mexico, and they're on a golf course, and it's awesome. Like it's beautiful, and so financially they were a big role model. As far as like family goes, my dad modeled what a father should be, in my opinion, about as well as anyone I've ever seen. He set the standard really high. He basically built our house and you know, pastored a church and raised me and my sister well, and loved my mom unconditionally and every single day, and even when it was really hard, and that was cool for me to kind of grow up under and watch him be a man of God and kind of set that bar for me. As far as career-wise, I mean, I do audio tech stuff, and I guess I didn't follow many people that were successful mix engineers. And so I didn't really understand what like a career goal would look like until I got to college and like was exposed to people doing that kind of work. And I still don't have like a great picture of what like my role model in that industry is, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. As far as that goes, I'm just trying to go as far as I can and meet as many people as I can and learn as many things as I can.
Learn as many people.
Yeah, like I don't know. A big part of my life has always been the love of learning, and so to learn how to handle my finances correctly, to learn how to father and be a good husband, and to learn how to mix a great show or whatever.
Yeah.
That is a lot of my goals, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what we were talking about, like the whole journey. Like it's like it's not like you're still finding a space for yourself as you grow and as you develop. But I wanted to touch on something that Tim, you were mentioning earlier, like how like Jon Foreman being like such a big person for you in terms of who you look up to and success and all that. But like, and how that kind of changed. Like you still look up to him, but it's not like, oh, I don't want to be exactly like Jon Foreman
definitely
anymore. And I think sometimes, I know for sure as artists and even us as a group, sometimes it's hard. We fight to not compare ourselves to any individuals, any other groups that are doing their thing. And it's like, I don't know how many times I've seen, I don't know, like say like a group who might not have the greatest song in the world. I was like, how do they have 30,000 Instagram followers? Like we're kicking our butts here, try to write like good music or whatever. But there's a danger in trying to compare yourself to people, and I think it's important to like kind of carve out a space for yourself where you can succeed in that. What would be some good ways to kind of fight against that? Because it's really difficult. I know for me, one area I try to do that, I'm very, how do I say this? Like my voice, anytime I hear my voice played back on a song, I'm like, geez, man. Like, what am I doing here? You know, kind of a thing. And then I started thinking about, I was like, man, this person has such a great voice. I was like, why can't I sing like them? What did I need to do to be exactly like them? And like, I really have to fight against that. And there's two ways I try to combat it. It's either, well, both. It's like, you know, I have the voice that I have, and how can I utilize that to its optimal potential? And it's fine that my voice doesn't sound like this person or that person. Just learning how to be comfortable in that. And it took me a while to get to that point, and I still struggle with that to this day. But also, like, well, if I'm not happy with where I'm at vocally or any other area, I'm like, I just work my butt off to get better and to become more efficient, and like trying to like pinpoint like specific areas where I can strengthen my voice or anything like that. But for you guys, whether it's within what we do as musicians or like in other spheres of creativity and artistry, how do you guys put up a safeguard for yourselves to not compare yourselves to like contemporaries or people who are on a certain level that you're trying to get to?
Yeah, I think it's a big balance of what you're describing, of like allowing someone to influence you and be inspiring, but not to the point where that, you know, overcomes you. And I know for me, and this sounds so simple, you know, it's not. But I think really, I just have to be honest with myself, like, and you know, where I'm at, who I am, what I bring to the table, what I have to offer.
Sometimes that can be hard.
Oh yeah, definitely. And sometimes, you know, you can be in real deep as far as like in that comparison mode, and then it kind of dawns on you like, oh wait, take a step back, and you know, come to that place where you're able to be honest with yourself. And so, and that's, you know, I don't have all the answers. You know, I know for me personally, that's just something that's taken a lot of time. You know?
Sure.
A lot of life. You know, so I still consider myself somewhat young, but you know,
spring chicken.
But
sorry, no one says that anymore. Spring chicken.
No.
What the heck? Sorry,
Grandpa.
I am. Look at this sweater.
Oh, okay, fair.
So yeah, but I think as I've gotten older, I've been able to be just more comfortable in my own skin, and not to say I don't still struggle with that. I definitely do.
Sure.
And you know, I see other people my same age, and they're doing things that might be, you know, considered bigger or better in my eyes, and yeah. So just have to bring myself down and go back to the basics.
Back to reality a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, were you gonna?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this actually came up, I think, maybe it was like 1 or 2 weeks ago when I was at church playing bass. Actually, I was talking with one of the guys that was drumming, and I was just like thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't play like the way that the other two guys that usually play service, like the way their style or like the way that they hold themselves. I'm like, am I, you know, like, am I not? Like, I know I'm up here playing, but I'm like, am I good enough? Like, why am I? Should I be up here? And
Yeah.
I think that's come from me going like, and understanding like, I am bringing something unique to the table. I'm bringing my experience. I'm bringing my way of doing things, which is unique to me, but also going, you know, like that will change. The way that I do things will change over time. Maybe I will get that good as good of as a bass player as some of those guys. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll be different.
Right.
You know,
it could
like-
just be this, like just the type of bass player you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's been tough at times to kind of be like, man, you know, like, why can't I, you know, I can't play slap bass.
Sure.
Like, why can't I do this? Like, I'm trying to practice and it's like,
Right.
it's not working.
I think
Yeah.
though that's a really good, like a healthy place to be, where you're like, you know, should I be up here, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because you know you don't want to be the guy on stage who's like
Super
I
cocky.
should
You're
be
like,
up here.
oh yeah. I'm
Yeah,
the
they
bass
need
player.
me to
They
be up
need
here.
me.
Yeah.
So
To hold
I mean,
down the
I think it's
board.
really,
Yeah.
you know, I'm all about like living in the tension, and
Yeah.
and so I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
And you know, but also you're obviously describing that you recognize the value that you bring to the
Yeah.
table.
Right.
That's unique to you.
Like, and you knowing your strengths and standing in that strengths, because even though they might be able to play slap bass, like a lot of people can't groove like you
Yeah.
on bass. And I
Thank you.
think,
Yep.
well, we get to see it a lot. So and
True.
it makes, you know, all of our jobs a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that's just like, it's like, no, I'm dope and
Yeah.
I'm going to keep being
Yeah.
dope. But if I want to learn slap bass, I guess I always could,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, I wrestle with that
Yeah.
same thing too.
It's interesting though, going from being a musician though to being a photographer though, because the mindset kind of shifts for some reason there for me. Because
How so?
I'm like, I think it's mostly just because of social media and like being on Instagram,
He's
a really
and
good
literally
photographer, too.
seeing all these other
Yep.
wedding photographers, all these, you know,
Yeah.
like all these other people doing portraits and all these other, you know, things,
Yes.
and it's like we, you know, ascribe worth to
Likes.
our work, to likes, and it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, no, that's really stupid, that's really vain, that's really like, you know, no.
Right.
At the same time, it's like, man, how am I, you know, like they just posted this like an hour ago and they're getting, you know, like 500 likes. I'm getting
With
like,
no hashtags.
yeah, with nothing. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm getting 100, and it's like, how? You know, how is this going? You know,
That was a very millennial.
yeah, I
thing
know,
that we
and
just-
I know that I'm saying that, but it's funny
It's
though.
true.
Says the guy who has like 9 million downloads on Unsplash.
All
or
right,
something.
all right,
No,
all right,
it is now over 10
It is over,
million.
it is over 10 million.
Shout outs.
Yeah.
Find Jeremy on Unsplash as well. His photos are awesome. Short plug.
And you can use them all for free.
For free. Because he's
You
really
owe
good.
him nothing because he chose that.
If you want to
But
donate.
like a virtual hug or something.
But no, I think it's been interesting though, because I've been finding that it's become easier in some ways though to not compare myself with other wedding photographers now, because I'm in communication and in relationship with those people, and they're affirming me just hit the mic. They're affirming me of what I'm doing, and they like what I'm doing. So there's this weird kind of like a push and a pull of like internally going like, there's competition, right? But on this other hand, there's like the people that I think I'm in competition with aren't even
Yeah.
in competition with me. They're just like, no, like keep doing.
Yeah, they're doing
this.
their thing. You're doing your
You know,
right.
like I don't know.
And I think that's I think that's key too. Just with being successful, like you can't do it by yourself. So you need to have
Yep.
people surrounded you. You might hear me do this a lot on the podcast, but I'm a huge fan of Questlove. So just bear with me. But like in one of the several interviews I've watched with him, the only way they knew how to achieve success as the Roots and in his career was to have essentially like other like-minded artists and musicians kind of supporting each other. And so they like camped out in like Electric Lady Studios in New York. Like it was like him, Common, Erykah Badu, like a ton of other artists that like I really love, and they all just kind of supported each other, and they all saw the benefits of success as a collective, as a group, as a movement. And so I think you having like other photographers and videographers and graphic designers and like whatever other million jobs you do, like affirming you it speaks to the success that you're starting to see and would continue to see. And I think that's true for just about anything. Like you need to have that community of people around you. Sorry,
Yeah.
JoJo, to cut you off.
No, you're good. I was gonna say the cool thing about what Jeremy's talking about, he's in a community of people that want to bring people along in their success. They're not if I'm understanding this correctly, they're not looking to put people down in order to help promote themselves.
No.
It's like, Instagram is there's not like a limited number of likes. We're not going after like a slice of a finite pie necessarily.
Yeah.
When you go further past that and go towards like marketing dollars, yes. But for what most people are doing on Instagram, it's just kind of fun, and it's cool to see the people that take it seriously and don't have to like try to monetize that. They just like to create good art for the sake of good art.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite parts about social media. But all of that to say is, I think one of the giveaways that you are secure and successful is when you can bring people along with you and encourage people instead of trying to tear them down to claw your way to the top.
Yeah.
I think that speaks more than any amount of money ever could.
Yeah.
Kind of your character behind it.
Yeah, I like that because I think that speaks, and you just said with your character, I think that speaks even more to how good of an artist you might be in a certain field. I think it speaks more to your character, that you're able to bring people along with you, and you guys can support each other in that movement, which I think is so crucial. One thing I was thinking about, because I think a lot of times when we do start to compare ourselves to other people, it can be really crushing. And Josiah, you were saying something about like identity and how that kind of relates to success. Could you hit on that a little bit?
Yeah, so a big part of how I kind of define success for myself, deeper than just providing for myself or accomplishing goal XYZ, is more along the lines of where I put my identity. So when we're talking about the rat race and when we're talking about comparing ourselves and all of that, it depends on your frame of context. If your frame of context for success is simply your net income or all of your Instagram likes combined for the last year versus someone else's, if that is your picture of success, you're always going to lose.
Yeah, that's fleeting.
There is always someone better. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the best person go down. It is time and time again, there's always someone better. It doesn't matter who you are. Yeah, like you said, like that's fleeting. And so when you kind of expand that from a context and you look at kind of who you believe yourself to be and what you believe to be the truest thing about you, that to me is kind of where success can boil down to. So personally, the truest thing I believe about myself is that I am loved by my Creator who died for me in order to be in community with me. And when you look at that, there are very few things that matter other than that to me. So, total income does not, in the grand scheme of eternity, make a difference.
Right.
Total Instagram likes means like literally nothing on so many levels. And while they're fun to kind of distract ourselves with and to strive for, there's nothing wrong with that. Putting any amount of my identity or my total success, feeling or recognition for myself in any of those things is ridiculous. If I am who Christ says I am, and if all of the stuff in the Bible is real, which I believe it is, then there's such a bigger frame of context for all that. I can, zoom out of myself and out of my own world, and I can look at the world around me.
Kind of takes a load off of you too, because it's not that pressure on you to deliver.
Oh, it's so refreshing. Jesus says, "Come to me, for my yoke is heavy and my burden is light." And that's the truth. Like,
yoke is easy.
Yeah.
Okay, it depends on your translation, I guess.
But he'll give you peace and rest because of him taking that burden from you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like something I've really learned in this last year or so is that the Lord is who He says He is every time. Amen. And it's cool. One of my friends got baptized yesterday, and it brought me back to a quote that I had learned about Martin Luther in my history and theology of worship class at Torgerson sophomore year. And
shout out to Torgerson.
Yeah, right, the goat. Martin Luther is quoted as saying something along the lines of, baptism is the greatest comfort. And let me see if I can find it real quick. I think I have my phone. But basically, what he's saying is that here it is. I'll just read it for you. In the holy and blessed sacrament of baptism, there is no greater comfort on earth. Baptism is a lifelong assurance that I am baptized, and through my baptism, God, who cannot lie, has bound himself in a covenant with me. That's cool because it's saying like one, God can't lie, and two, he took an oath with me through this to provide for me, to save me, to take care of me.
He's invested. Yeah.
You know, and he is sold out on that, like so much so that he became one of us and he died for us, and like that's cool because if that's all true, and he also says, you know, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. That has to be true.
Yeah.
And it just kind of really allows me to zoom out and to take the bigger picture into consideration. So, yeah, like I'm rambling now. This is why I usually sit behind a console and not in front of a microphone. But all of that to say, my personal success is less dependent on numbers and more dependent on what the Lord says about me. And he says that I am loved and I am cherished, and
You are loved.
You are loved. And obviously not all of the things I do is perfect or beautiful, and like I screw up, you know, every single day. But that doesn't define me, and that doesn't define my success.
Right.
But neither does winning $1 million or whatever. Like none of that does.
Yep.
The good or the bad.
Tim?
What was the question?
Yeah, sorry. That was a long one.
No, it was good. I just don't remember how this started.
Kind of like protecting your identity with trying to achieve success. Would you kind of put it like that, Josiah?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was referencing kind of like the question about how do you prevent the rat race, but also like what does success and identity have to do with each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. Well, I think identity is crucial to everything, you know, we do and who we are. And I think it's a tremendous issue right now. Like a lot of people our age and older are dealing with identity crisis. You know, not knowing who you are, which leads down some really, you know, dark paths. If you are, you know, letting other things define you that can't or that don't, you know, aren't the right things, you know, it takes you down some dark places. So I think for myself, that's kind of been the theme throughout everything I've been saying, is that the healthiest place I've gotten to is when I know who I am and am secure in that. And I grew up a very insecure person. I still deal with some of that stuff now.
Preach.
It's, you know, our artist thing.
Yeah.
What?
I'm emotional.
But that's you know, that's why looking back and saying, oh, you know, looking at my kids and things like that, has brought healing to me in some of those ways, because like, you know, here's living proof that you know, things I set my mind to have come to fruition in some way. And also they're cool kids, so
Yeah. That always helps.
so far we're doing good so far. And so I think that's been huge in just helping solidify the person I am. You know, because I think as you get older, you know, not in my 30s yet, but we're getting there.
I'm not too far behind.
You know, you start to step into a new season of life and being comfortable in your own skin, and so I feel like I'm just leaving some of the angst that I dealt with in my mid to early 20s, and even teenage years.
Teenage angst is like nothing else.
Yeah,
So real.
and now when I'm around teenagers and stuff, I was like, oh wow,
This looks
a long
too
way.
familiar.
And so yeah, it's been nice. Like I've been really enjoyed that process, and but at the same time, deep down there's still that insecure. Gosh, this was not planned, by the way. What's happening right here?
I was trying to hold it together, and I looked over and I was like, nope, that's not going to work. No, you're good.
I'm just mad I didn't get this sweater memo from Aaron, so we could have
Yeah.
been symmetrical. But
Yeah, I forgot to mention this. Tim and Jeremy decided to be twins today.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll just say, somebody had this shirt first, and the
Oh.
audience
No, he's right. He's right. But mine was probably cheaper when I bought it. So that's
You guys both shop at H&M, or what's up?
well, maybe. I mean,
Yeah, if you can't see, they're both denim shirts, black pants, and Chelsea boots. I guess, I don't know if that's a new GDG uniform or what, but
I hope not.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't have this exact same outfit in my
Outfit
closet.
at home right now.
I just chose the grandpa sweater today. Yes, sorry, Tim.
yeah. So that's so yeah, it's still a balance. I'm still figuring it out, but
Yeah.
definitely being. I'm done. You go.
That was all very good for the bits and pieces we could pick up.
Who
No,
are you?
Oh man.
This will go in the outtakes cut.
No, this should stay.
No, keep it in here.
This is staying
they
in.
need to know.
Man, I've lately been thinking about this a lot, actually. I have a friend that's going through devotion right now, and she was sharing with me. We're in the season of Lent, and it's going between Exodus and between Exodus and then the New Testament right now. And it was interesting looking at that and being like, in Exodus, it's like God is continually promising things to his people, to Israel, and like is continually promising things to his people. And then in the New Testament with Jesus coming, and then everything that happens with the disciples, like that's a fulfillment of those promises. And like it's out of it, and those disciples that are coming, and coming to be who they are like coming from a place of thankfulness for what Christ has done for them. So I think a lot of the identity stuff and like understanding success anyway for me more now than ever is from, like, am I viewing success from a place of like competition, and like what I am to gain from it, or am I viewing it from like, no, I'm in a place of success right now because like I'm posturing myself in a way where I'm thankful for everything that has been done to me.
And all
so
three of those
far.
can drive us in very different ways too. Yeah.
So I've been thinking lately. It's like, I want to be thankful for the things that are happening right now in my life, and that's helping me shape my understanding of success and my relationship with other people and my relationship with like, not competition, but like people in the same space that I'm running next to right now is like. I'm thankful for where I'm at, but I'm also thankful for where those people are at right now.
Absolutely.
So it's like someone else's success becomes my, like, not success, but like there's like a thankfulness there for where they're at. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and like you can kind of champion each other, and like kind of going off of that, I hinted at this a little bit earlier. I know for me, whether it's been individually or even just in phases of the group, I think a lot of times, just it's very easy to look at other people and what they're doing that's kind of similar to what you're doing, and like you're kind of, I don't know, jacking their identity in a way, and that's very, very dangerous and very, very harmful. And then I think when you have that realization, it's like, all right, you got to step back and like, all right, okay, so this isn't a good space to be in. So what do I do to kind of step out of that? And I've sat with that with people I've looked up to, and just looking at their careers and just like seeing the success that they have and like how cool everything is. I'm like, that's it. I want it to be exactly like that.
Yeah.
And no matter how hard I might work or how much I want to change myself, at the end of the day, I'm still like I can never be that.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of look at yourself. I'm like, all right, well, who am I? What have I been gifted with? What are my talents? And how can I use that to, as you say, run alongside of them,
Yeah.
and not trying to like, be them, or in some cases, people trying to knock other people out the way. It's like, no, I can be here.
I can be better than that.
Well, one thing that was really eye-opening and strange for me, and I'm sure you guys have experienced something like this to some degree, but I've had people tell me, like, I want what you have. And it's like,
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
well, not only that, but it's like, wait. Like, there's always people that I compare myself to that are, bigger and better than the things I'm doing. And then I have people telling me, like, I want what you have. I'm like, what? Like, and some of it's flattering, and some of it's like been eye-opening. Like,
Right.
I want to have a family too. I want a job.
Kind of like grass is greener on the other side, kind
exactly.
of
Yeah. And some of that's, help me be more thankful. Like, wow, I do have a lot. But there's also when people are like, I want what you have, and it's like,
It's like, why do you want this?
what? Like,
Why don't you be happy for you?
well, right, and like, why me? Like,
Yeah. What's so special about me, kind
right,
of thing?
exactly.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show, like, how easy it is for us to get wrapped up in comparing ourselves
Yeah.
to other people and what, like you said, grass is greener type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was always kind of like, a little mind-boggling for me.
Another thing to say off of that is it never looks like what you think it looks like.
Yeah.
And so I was dating this girl a couple years ago before I even came to college, and this was the summer after my freshman year, and things were not going well for us. And a mutual friend saw us sitting there somewhere and was like, look at you two, a couple goals right there, and we were falling apart. Like, we broke up 3
Oh, no.
weeks later. And it was a messy, bad breakup. And I remember
Yeah.
looking back
Jeez.
at that and thinking, if only you knew
Yeah.
what was actually going on, I wouldn't wish this on
Yeah.
anyone. It was a disaster. It was horrible. And so as you're thinking about man, I wish I had what so and so has. Do you? Because you don't
Yeah,
know.
it's just-
You don't
you have no
know
idea.
what they're going for, or going through, and what they had to do to get that, or what they sacrificed. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I would encourage you, as you're measuring success, to not compare it to other people, even if that's your only reason. It's because you just don't know what their life is looking like, or because there's a lot of people that we look up to that aren't happy with where they're at,
Oh, yeah.
and we could think they have the whole world, and they might, and they could still want more. And so if they hear you say I wish I had what you had, they'd be like, why? Oh, they'll go off on you. And
Yeah.
so it's just it's dangerous territory to say that, kind of I want what you have, because
Yeah.
you just don't know the
You
rest
don't
of the
know.
story.
Right.
Yeah.
The cool parts. It's like social media. No one ever complains about. Well, they shouldn't complain about their dishwasher broke and they don't have any clean clothes anymore. Whatever. Those are two.
By the way,
completely
I don't want to see your
unrelated-
broken dishwashers on Instagram. That's just
Right,
you're not
exactly.
social mediaing, right?
But everyone on social media, as a general rule, will brag about how perfect their life is.
Yeah.
You don't see the messy parts of it too often.
Yeah.
And then when you do, people will complain and say oh, they're just doing it for attention.
Yeah.
It's it's a
It's
lose-lose.
true. It's really hard to be vulnerable in that type of a space, and that's a different podcast.
I have a question. So,
Yeah.
we've been talking about this on a very individual basis. And I think, Josiah, it was either you or Tim, or maybe it was all of us. Well, maybe you three at some point brought this up of I know I've said running alongside people. What does, I don't know how much time we have left right now to dive into this, but
We have another 6 hours.
great. What does success look like in the context of collaborating and working with other people? Because that's something that all of us do. I know that in our personal work lives and what we're doing together, that is a thing where it's how do you navigate success when other people are involved in a relationship? Which is not a bad thing. I'll say that. But how do you guys kind of navigate that space for yourselves when you're working with other people? And then because you're dealing with two different mentalities about it.
Sure.
How do you meet in the middle?
I think it starts off who you're working with and how comfortable you are with working with them, especially with collaborating. So for me, as like a songwriter and hopefully more as a producer moving forward, it's really important when you're trying to achieve a successful goal, who you're collaborating with. If there's like a relationship there and like a rapport, it's easy. It's like cake every time. And I don't know. I look forward to those opportunities, finding people that's kind of on the same page, but it's like missionally in terms of what they're doing. It's kind of the same thing. Just a quick peek into the next episode. I won't give it away just yet, but there's somebody we've been collaborating with on a song, and it was just such a breath of fresh air, and it was so easy to work together, and just like looking at him and his career and where we are at in our career with what we're trying to do with G2G, it was like being able to support each other moving forward in terms of trying to find success for ourselves within our in our music careers, and that birthed different collaborations that could come up down the road, so much so that he said yes to coming on the podcast. So I think for me anyway, that's like a great place to start. It's just like who I'm looking to collaborate with. And we were talking about vulnerability. Like it's hard for me to want to open up and work, especially with songwriting, and like bleed on a page with somebody who I don't know or doesn't get me or doesn't respect me or thinks it's a waste of time or something like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Going off of that, I think like the goal of success for the group is important. So I work with another student and good friend here at school, and we're doing a record right now, and we're not doing a record for numbers, or we're not doing a record for...
Which is sounding awesome, by the way.
Thank you. We're not doing a record for, for that necessarily.
Sure.
What we're mostly going for is we just want to make good music and have a good time doing it. And a lot of this record is based off of my friend's personal experiences and kind of his walk with the Lord. And so for him to get some of this out and put it down on a relatively physical medium has been just incredible for him. And for me, it's a good creative outlet because I get to stress myself as a mix engineer and producer kind of role. And it's so good and so fun. And we have this kind of general goal of not selling 1 million albums or getting 1,000 streams on Spotify or whatever. It's just we just want to make good music.
Yeah. It's big having that expectation put before you too. I think that's really healthy.
Yeah, no, neither of us are getting paid for it. Like it's all just kind of on our own, and we put as much time as we can into it, and we're excited about it. But it's not like the end of the day kind of be all for us, which frees us up to do a lot of really cool stuff that we wouldn't do normally.
So that type of chemistry is special, I think, and that will reflect on the record. Definitely. So that's been really cool, and that's been a blessing of a group to work in. The opposite side of that is when you don't have that, it really is hard, and you have to make decisions not on artistic expression, but on marketability and what's going to sell, and that is exhausting sometimes. So like this project for us is very life-giving. Those kinds of projects become just very exhausting and tiring. And, cynical.
Yeah.
That's another podcast too.
That is a few podcasts.
We'll talk about it.
At least 3.
At least.
We'll talk about it in counseling.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But that's like kind of how I look at groups and going to groups is, and I can do either one. If we have to make it marketable and we have to like hit a minimum, like awesome. Yeah. That is the goal.
Yeah.
But, I think kind of defining those expectations on the front end is really important to having a successful project outcome.
Because it's really defined what you're heading towards, so there's no guessing games once you start.
Over communicate that as much as you can. Because as soon as there's a miscommunication or someone's expectations aren't quite met, like it gets so messy, especially when there's intellectual property and legal rights on who owns how much of the song or whatever.
Woof.
Yeah, it gets really, really messy. So I think communicating all that on the front end is the most important part about defining success in a group.
Yeah. Cool. Something I wanted to touch on, and Josiah, again, when we were coming back from this party, this is one of the things that we hit on, is I guess in experience and expectations as that relates to success, I think a lot of times our experiences don't always lend to where we think we should be or maybe where we want to be. And I think a lot of times when that happens, it can be difficult, but I think a lot of times we need to self-examine ourselves and kind of redefine what our expectations should be. And I think one of the things we were talking about, there's nothing wrong with that, because you want to still be able to find success and find happiness with how you kind of recalibrate what that might look like for you. And that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you, for instance, if you're a football player and you think, oh, I've had these experiences in this certain context, so I'm bound to be the next Tom Brady. I'm like, ugh. I mean, I can't stand Tom Brady, but guy, that guy's a stud.
Yeah.
Like, and there's just very few people that are like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And I think we see that, every once in a while, especially in our world, because I think there's this unspoken idea of like you have to be at a certain place when it comes to like music. Like, this is it. This is what you need to reach for, and then anything else below that is pretty much null and void. So give up.
Yep.
But I think there's space for everybody. I think once we realize that we can start to manage our expectations, and those experiences still speak towards that. I think it's just a way of learning how to manage our experiences to meet truthful expectations. What do you guys got?
Going off the football comparison, I had a buddy in high school who was a kicker on our high school football team, and he did camps, and he went to like combine tryout kinds of things, and recruiting days and all of this stuff, and he kicked every day for X amount of time and worked out, blah blah blah. And, like, as far as like a list of things you had to do to like be a successful football player, like he did. He was very committed to it, and he wanted to go into cinematography in college, and he goes to a place out in LA now that had a football program. It's Jordan.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I bet you
Oh,
didn't
Jordan.
I bet you didn't know that about him.
No, I did
I
not.
don't know
Yeah.
Jordan.
Wow, okay.
So
I don't know.
he
Dope.
went to
No idea.
this
No
university
idea.
with the major of cinematographic arts, or I can never keep it straight what it's called. But he also wanted to play on the football team, and he was going for the scholarship there. And he joined the team at I don't know if it was a good time or not, but there was a couple other kickers, and like he just like couldn't seem to make the cut for the starting spot or for the scholarship. And so he, after his freshman year, he had to kind of face the music and was like, I can't keep playing football if I'm not going to get that scholarship. I got to find other sources of income. And he did. He had to make that call, and he put on his big boy pants, and he had to talk to his parents, who were very supportive of him being a football player. And he was like, I can't keep doing this. And, fortunately, they were very supportive of him and in his career decisions and dreams and aspirations. But, like, he had every right to be angry and bitter and frustrated as far as worldly rights could go, I guess. Like, he did all of the stuff to do. And it wasn't enough. And so he just moved on, and he kind of reframed his expectations and what we went off of. And again, his identity wasn't in football. It wasn't in camera stuff. It wasn't in cinematography. It was, he's a firm believer in who Jesus says he is and who Jesus is. And as a result of that, he's reaped the benefits of being able to kind of like change focus and kind of switch gears.
Yeah, it's really important not to get stuck and keep moving forward, because if you get in that place of just being bitter and angry and it's not good. And so I think moving forward always, and never getting to that place, and even if it's not crystal clear, like, just as long as you're moving forward, like, you're making progress, and heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Jay? as you think about that, I'll piggyback a little bit off of what Josiah was saying. Me and my dad have this. We talk about this thing. I think there's this idea, like if you work hard, you can do anything that you want. I'm like, no, that's not always the case. You know, absolutely work hard, and I think that's a healthy part of a good work ethic. But if I'm spending years trying to become a chef and I just can't cook, and I'm working my butt off to do it,
You need to
I
quit.
should- I
You need
shouldn't
to
be a
quit.
chef.
Yeah, you need to quit.
you know. And I think that's why it's probably a good thing to have like people around you to not just affirm you and the gifts that you have, but also to be like, bro,
Yes. Yep.
stop.
This is not what you should be doing right now.
Yeah, like you shouldn't be a chef. Like you should be.
cook.
You can't
You
cook.
don't know what you're doing. I know how to make easy mac
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
It's like, all right, no, that doesn't work.
It's like, man, you can make a bowl of cereal like no other, bro.
Oh, great.
But this filet mignon is just not working out.
Burnt steak.
But yeah, I think that's something that should be said too. I think, which if anything, it really should highlight the things that you're really good at.
Yeah.
And then because it forces you to kind of dig inside. I was like, all right, what am I really good at? Oh, like I love to drive, and I don't know, like there's no shame in being a good Uber driver.
Yeah.
Because who knows? It's not just about driving. It could be the relationships, or just like that one, I don't know, 5-minute interaction with somebody that just needs to say, "Hey, hope you're having a good day."
Yeah,
that could
for
be
sure.
like the first time they heard that in who knows how long. And so there's just different spaces to find what you're really good at, and sometimes you just need to get out of certain positions where that's just, yeah, you shouldn't be there. I learned that for myself not too long ago. I was in this job, and it was a great opportunity. But I quickly found out it's like, maybe
You're
this
like, you're
isn't-
done. You're
Yeah.
done. You don't want to do this.
And what I found also is just like, man, I'm really not helping myself, but more so, I'm really not helping the people around me
That
that
you're supposed to be helping.
I'm supposed to be helping. I'm like, oh boy,
I can't
this,
help myself, so that means
Yeah.
I can't help other people. Right
No
now.
one was happy with their food.
yeah,
It was bad. It was bad.
yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I'm like thinking now. Like I remember when I started off actually my freshman year of college, and I was majoring in graphic design for the first week, and I switched within the first week. I switched over to music, and it's
Good
funny.
switch.
And it's funny where I am now because I'd applied for jobs in the past year that were involving specifically doing design work. Didn't get any of them. And that's made me go like, am I doing something wrong? Like, am I not working hard enough? Like I feel like I've progressed as a designer. Like I feel I'm getting better. Like, why am I not? You know, like why am I not getting this position or whatever? And I'm having to sit back and go, you know what? Maybe it's just not for me to do this full time.
Yeah.
That's okay. You know, and
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
realizing that's like
Which turns out you're actually a really good graphic designer.
exactly. It's like all right, well, but
Hence the
Yeah.
10 million downloads on Unsplash.
yeah, I know. And now it's just like,
It's
oh,
like-
maybe photo is what I'm supposed to be doing, which is where I found
Right.
myself doing now. And it's just funny though, like you are gonna get burned
Oh,
a
definitely.
couple times,
Yeah.
and that's okay. It's
That's
just
natural.
like again, like having people around you that can affirm you and be like,
Yes.
you know what, you're still good at these things. Still sucks that you didn't, you know,
Yeah. no, for
succeed
sure.
in the
Yeah.
way that you were hoping to, but that's okay. So I don't know, like
Right.
that expectation of like you may be good at a lot of things, but some of those things aren't meant to be the thing,
Right.
or none of them are the thing potentially.
Right, and I think again to kind of go off of what Aaron said about being like the best Uber driver that you can, like there is no shame in having a career outside of like your passions.
Yeah.
Like that's how lots of people put the bread on the table, and that is so important.
And lead very happy lives doing that
Oh,
too.
absolutely. You know, I would probably want to jump off a bridge if I was an accountant. I had to go sit in a cubicle every day from 9 to 5. Like, oh my gosh, it would. I don't know if I could do it, but if I had a family depending on me, and that was like my best source of income, and it was like the most realistic way that I could provide, I could do it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I would have to find other hobbies and areas to have some of my creative outlets,
Yeah.
you know, kind of taken care of.
Yeah.
But you know, you kind of have to again, determine what success is, and if that is to pay the bills on time, you got to do what you can to get there.
Yeah.
And it's not always going to look like what you might think it is, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's no pressure necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't know that song.
I don't know if it's, I don't think it is a song, but
I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know it. I don't know it.
No, the other
And now
one,
for silly songs with Jeremy.
Sorry.
Yeah. Again, like you guys are getting a lot of like a glimpse into the conversation Josiah and I had a few nights ago, but also something that we thought was interesting to point out. I think a lot of times we try to, I guess, hijack other people's success. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah, that's a
Like
really good way of putting it.
like you see yourself in a certain light, even though you really. Calm down, Jerry. Easy. You start associating other people's success as your success, but you're not as critical to the journey.
I got the kick pedal and I put it on the trick drum in my part of the album now.
Yeah, where's my Grammy
Where's
award?
my Grammy award?
And
Wait, I can't get a Grammy for that?
Wait, what?
Nuts.
man, I've been using that kick pedal on that kick drum for 30 years. I deserve this Grammy. By the way, we don't know anybody who talks like that. Just kidding. But yeah, I think that's something just to manage. You know, I think. But I think if you're in that position, there's a lot of great ways to help. I think you can be a part of that success in a way, but you have to. It's like.
If you're legitimately collaborating,
Sure.
then I think there's space for that. But if you're literally the dude that's just like, I set up the drums, it's like,
Right.
no.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a line.
But that should be celebrated. I
It
think
should
probably,
be celebrated, but there's a difference between like taking credit for something versus,
right.
you know, like
Taking credit for someone else's
where
success.
credit is due.
Right.
Like, that's the thing.
I think, yeah.
And I would say sometimes, you know, there's definitely going to be cases of unfair recognition or you did all the hard work and someone else got the
Yeah.
recognition. But I would say more often than not, at least in my own experiences, people that are worth having... Okay, let me rephrase that. People that should be recognizing your success will.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you
for sure.
produce this record and the artist is getting all of the recognition for it, you know, the people might see the artist, but like your other producer people are gonna like look deeper than that.
Be like,
They're gonna
who
say like,
did
oh,
this?
you
Or-
produced
yeah.
that track, or you know, you mixed this, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it might not be on like a global or like bigger spectrum.
But within the context of that team, maybe.
Right. But like, there's going to be people still looking at very specific positions, and if you were in one of those positions, like you will get recognized by someone eventually.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Kind of, you know, similar to that. So it like nothing is in vain necessarily, but at the same time, if you did nothing on a record and you claim to have done a lot and your name isn't in the liner notes, people are gonna figure that out too.
Or especially if you weren't in the studio when any of it was recorded.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like people are gonna figure that out, and you can't expect people to just like blindly believe you
Right.
on stuff. Like
Right.
we are in an age of fact checks, and everyone that went through.
Don't even
basically
try it.
any
The
kind of-
internet is undefeated.
Oh, the internet is completely undefeated, and like we've been kind of indoctrinated from day one, at least in my educational experience, to have sources. I can't submit a paper, you know, without valid.
Oh, that's a Swift F.
Legitimate sources, right? Like,
You're
they,
done. You're
like,
done.
the professor doesn't even look at that; they just like throw it away. And so, you know, if you have credible, backed up information or work,
Cool.
I don't know how to phrase that.
Yeah.
No, that
I'm
makes
not an
sense.
English
No,
major
that
for a
makes
reason. But
We're musicians.
yeah, exactly. I don't do all words.
All right. So we're gonna wrap up. Just trying to bring it back in. We touched on a lot of different things tonight.
Yeah, we did. This was a long one.
Jeremy, you, I know one of the things you wanted to hit on was just classical center definition of success. Can you just
I
wrap that up?
I
for
kind of
us?
talked about this a little bit earlier. I think kind of what we've all, I think, at least discussed tonight was this idea of like, it's about enough, there's something about sustainability. There's something about like you have what you need and you're doing what you need to do. And I think there's this mentality a lot of times, I think in our society where it's less like we need more. We need to do more equals success. And that's not always the case. Sometimes less is more. I know that we say that a lot. But I think in terms of like if we're looking at this through the lens of the gospel and like what Christ has done, there's this understanding of like Christ has done everything already for us. Again, that like thankfulness piece I brought up earlier that we all kind of touched on is like, I think so central to understanding success, because when we understand that it's not anything that we do necessarily,
but what he's already done,
it shifts everything.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like dive like super deep into that, but I hope that makes sense.
Again, it kind of goes back to, I think, the identity of where you've put, or the identity you assign to yourself, and kind of what you believe about yourself, and what you believe about like the world as a whole.
Yeah.
And if this Jesus person is who he says he is, then that means X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I know something, again, just relating to us and what we're doing as a group. One thing that we like to say a lot is trust the process. A lot of times it's very easy to get discouraged and trying to achieve the goals, but just being very passionate at what we do and where we feel like the Lord's leading us. And this is the importance of this community and other people that we have around us that affirm what we're doing and what the Lord is calling us to do. It's just trusting the process and just like following his lead. That's one thing I like to say. As long as God is opening the doors, it's our responsibility to walk through them. And so, Jeremy just walked through the door.
And if you don't, he will still love you.
Right, yeah.
Like, there are so many doors that I haven't walked through, and that doesn't mean that the Lord is going to not open doors in the future. Or, he's not going to, like, it's not going to be it. Which is cool. And, again, that takes more pressure off.
Yeah.
Like, the Lord invites us into his plan and his future, but he doesn't force us.
Right. And it's so cool to be a part of what he's ultimately doing, and the fact that he's equipped us to be a part of that. I think that's really cool. Anything else before we wrap this thing up, guys? Awesome.
Hope you can follow.
I hope the guys, this is like a really honest look into who we are, and this, we're okay with that, Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Before we go, we want to say, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but our next guest on the next episode of Identity Podcast is going to be Daniel Olson. He's a good friend of ours. Some of you may know him from the band Citizen Way. He's been playing guitar with them for a couple years, but he's just become a really good collaborator with us, outside of just being an awesome guy and a great friend. So he's been writing with us. Our next single is actually going to be a song that we've written together, and then you'll hear that in more than the near future.
It's gonna be wild.
It's gonna be wild. If you thought this was crazy, actually, we were talking about managing expectations, so we won't lead you anyway. So we're really excited to have him on and talk about what he's doing and future things for his career and what he's doing in his life. So I'm really looking forward to having him on. Anyway, once again, I'm Aaron. That's Jeremy. That's Tim. That's Josiah. Again, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to get updates on whenever we post any sort of content. And please share it. If you liked it, please share it. And if you didn't like it, we get it.
And if you're listening to this on SoundCloud too, give us a follow and turn on your notifications.
Absolutely, yeah. Once again, this is Identity Podcast. Have an awesome night, and we'll see you later.